for Summerlin Hospital. I just want to thank you for attending today's panel presentation on the pillars of brain health. Today's panel speakers representing Summerlin Hospital are Gretchen Papez, System Director of Public and Media Relations for the Valley Health System, with over 30 years of experience in public relations. Gretchen will be discussing the mental fitness and social interaction pillars of brain health. Patricia Bain is our second speaker. She is our Director of Cardiopulmonary Services at Summerlin Hospital, and she will be presenting the sleep and relaxation pillars of brain health. Our final speaker will be Amanda Peraza. She is our Manager of Clinical Nutrition at Summerlin Hospital and will discuss the final pillars of brain health, food, and nutrition. Please note we will have a Q&A session after all of the panelists have presented. Please hold your questions until the end of the presentation, and please also silence your cell phones in order to be respectful of our guest speakers. Thank you again for attending today's presentation, and please join me in welcoming our panel of guest speakers.
Hi everybody. Hi everybody. Thank you for coming out today. It's a little still. Okay. All right. So thank you for coming. I'll just talk a little louder. You guys can tell me if I'm too loud. Tell me down. All right. Oh, this one sounds even better. So thank you for coming out. I am from the Midwest. When you're from the Midwest, weather like this, you're still wearing shorts. My husband had on shorts this morning, and I'm like looking for my heaviest sweaters that I can wear anywhere. So thank you for coming out. It warmed up a little bit by the time that we got out here. What I'd like to start off with today is a little icebreaker. And because I know a lot of times people come and you see the same faces, but you might not actually know their names. I find that working in a hospital, there are people I have said hello to for years, and I can never see their badge. So it's just kind of like this generic, hi, how are you? And I know they have kids and dogs and everything, but I don't know their first name. So finally I just say, I'm so embarrassed, I don't know what your first name is. And we introduce ourselves, even if it's been a couple of years. So what I would like you to do, I give you a little bit of time to think, that piece of paper, find someone I want everybody to stand up. Find someone who you don't, live with or come with or drove with today. Share your name, how long you've lived in Sun City, and then just a favorite book or author or television show. Something that you like that you think somebody else would like. All right, so if you can, stand up. Get the blood flowing.
I don't know if I'm in the right spot. This is Zumba and where's Aqua there's two seats up there.
All right, I'm going to give you about another 30 seconds to wrap up. Find your seats.
That went over well. She asked them to interact with one another instead of just saying hi.
favorite book. I read a lot of mystery thrillers, but this summer I read Lessons in Chemistry, and I had a lot of friends who were in book clubs who read it, people who read it on their own. It's, oh, you read it, okay. It's about, real briefly, it's about a brilliant female chemist in the 1960s and how her life goes on this very different trajectory. So if you're looking for a good winter read, Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Darmus. If you have Netflix, I recommend Wine Country. Even my husband found it was funny. It is kind of female-centric, but he got some good laughs out of it. I'm also watching a lot of the Hallmark Channel because nothing bad ever happens on the Hallmark Channel. It's always a happy ending. And then if you listen to podcasts, which I only started to get into over the pandemic, but there's one called The Satellite Sisters. It's a pep talk for modern day women. And then one that I want to start listening to is by Alan Alda. It's called Vivid and Clear. And he's already done 238 episodes, so you have plenty to listen to if you're interested in podcasts. But now we'll get back to a little bit more of what the presentation is. I'm talking about mental happiness, I guess, and social interaction. And there is a wealth of information out there about just how your mental health and your physical health are, connected to your health and your happiness and your social interactions. So first, kudos for coming out today. Even if you didn't want to come out, you came out, so good for you. This is one of the key social interactions. I've put my glasses on because even though I printed my speech in big font, I still can't always read it quite that well. So from a mental health perspective, socializing not only staves off loneliness, but it also helps sharpen your memory and cognitive skills. It contributes to just an overall sense of happiness and well-being. And some research even says that it's going to help you live longer. Now, I found this very interesting study by Penn State, and they interviewed people ages 70 to 90. And their research found that the more frequent and pleasant social interactions people had, it had a positive effect on their cognitive issues for 3 full days. It was the day that they had the positive interaction, plus the following 2 days. So, and these interactions, it was, talking with your family, talking with your friends, talking with somebody at the dog park, having a quick conversation with the grocery store clerk. If, you don't like to do self-checkout, nobody likes to do self-checkout these days, I don't. So, but when you get a clerk, it's nice to be able to have a quick conversation. Now, so that was, I thought, an interesting study that was validated by Penn State. Now, on the flip side, then, of course, if you're not being social and you've got some loneliness going on, that kind of, I think we all figured out, it's going to lead to some depression, some anxiety. And there's actually research that shows that it can lead to physical ailments as well. Increase, because they think, one of the theories is that loneliness becomes a stressor. And stress leads to chronic stress, and chronic stress can lead to some physical ailments that actually need some medical intervention. So being out, being social, talking to people, and you don't have to be the social butterfly, and be out and about and be on, because it is kind of hard to be on, 6 to 8 hours a day. But just these social chunks, that's not a very attractive word. These social bits maybe sound like a better, opportunity. One other opportunity that I wanted to talk about with your mental health is the importance of laughter. And I gotta tell you, with the news these days, I watch way too much news, I read way too much news, and there's not a lot of happy news out there. I'm sure you all know that. So turn it off. If you're a news junkie, I know that's hard, but try to dial it back and look for things that make you laugh. There's a great article I found online by the VA, and it listed a whole series of physiological changes, positive, that happen when you laugh, as well as health conditions that it affects. And the two that resonated with me the most is when you laugh, it lowers your stress level and it increases your endorphins, your feel-good chemicals is what it calls. So we're going to do, it's not a quiz, it's fun, but I just want to test some of your laughter knowledge. What television character only carried 1 bullet?
Lone Ranger.
Barney Fife. I don't know, maybe the Lone Ranger did too, but it's Barney Fife who's the one that I always knew about. All right, who remembers the character Rosanna Dana? Now, this one's kind of a free-for-all. We're just gonna tap into your collective brilliance. And just raise your hand, and then I'll call on you, you can shout it out. Your favorite Carol Burnett character or skit? Yellow scarf.
Gone with the Wind.
Okay. What, yours, Gone with the Wind? Okay. Anybody else a favorite Carol Burnett skit? Yes, ma'am? Mrs. Swiggins. I know it, Tim Conway. I know. And then I think what almost makes me laugh as much as the Carol Burnett skits is when they broke character. I mean, Harvey Korman just could not keep a straight face whenever he was with Tim Conway. So if you are a Carol Burnett fan, I found it this morning, she has a YouTube channel that appears to be free. And if you are somebody who goes online, there are dozens of Carol Burnett episodes available. So let's kind of tap into your other expertise. Any other television shows, funny television shows, that you would recommend to the group that they might want to check out? Yes, ma'am. Whose Line? Oh my gosh, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Those guys are just so quick on their feet. I don't know how they do it, because I am not quick on my feet. And they just throw out a topic, and these comedians just go. Any other suggestions? Good ones. I know there's a lot of grim stuff out there these days. Yes, sir.
Modern Family.
Oh, Modern Family. Another classic. Definitely. Anything else? Anybody?
Ghost.
What is it?
Ghost.
Ghost?
Ghost.
Oh, Ghosts. Television show. Another recommendation from the front row coming out. All right, anybody from the back row want to throw out a recommendation? Oh, a recommendation coming from the stage.
This is a series on Netflix called Community. It's a newer one. It's over the last few years, but it's hilarious.
All right, if you've got Netflix, a series called Community. Amanda? No. Amanda's, she's too busy. She's taking care of the nutrition needs of the world. She doesn't have time. All right, well, that kind of wraps it up. Laughter is good medicine. If you've read Reader's Digest, you know, I don't even know if they print Reader's Digest anymore, but, you know. Okay. In large print, Reader's Digest. But I remember, because my mom got it, my grandparents got it, and I was, you know, when I was little, I was like never interested in the stories, which now I realize were really good stories that I just was too immature to know. But you know, they had All in a Day's Work, they had Laughter is Good Medicine, they had military, and they were just these funny anecdotes. And I remember flipping through the magazine just to read those funny anecdotes. So just try to put some humor into each of your day. And before I turn it over to Patty, our fabulous director of cardiopulmonary services at Summerlin Hospital, and truly on the front lines of all things COVID for going on 4 years now, I'm going to leave you with 2 jokes, and they're goofy jokes, but again, we're looking for fun here. Okay, and if you know the answer, you can shout it out. I gotta get it right. Nobody wants to kill the joke and not get it right the first time. Okay, what did one math book say to the other math book? That is not, well, it's a good punchline. It's not the answer that I got off the internet. But one math book said to another, I've got so many problems. I like your answer better though. Okay, and my last one, I gotta do hand motions with this. How do you know what a bike is thinking? How do you know what a bike is thinking? You see the wheels turning. I know, I know. Anyway, thank you so much, and now I'm going to turn it over to Patty.
Is my voice loud enough without
No.
this? All right. Because I use a lot of hand motions too. My name is Patty. I'm the cardiopulmonary director over at Summerlin, but so I'm a respiratory therapist by trade. But in order to keep my sanity, I'm also a fitness instructor and a yoga instructor. So I am a trainer for a yoga school, and so I basically train the trainers. And one of the aspects of that training is to talk about meditation. Meditation isn't necessarily sitting on a cushion in the corner in lotus position chanting Om. Yes, ma'am.
Can you move a little closer to the stage, Kathy?
Sure, absolutely. So meditation can take many different forms. How many of you take walks? That's a form of meditation. That can be a walking meditation. Even just taking a walk and, or even washing your dishes. How many times are you washing dishes when you zone out? Right? That's a form of meditation when you're just, you clear your mind. Now, when you purposely try to clear your mind, how many of you can do that? Yeah, because there's like all this stuff going on up here, and usually that happens for me around 2 o'clock in the morning when I wake up in a panic. But one of the best ways to alleviate that panic, or all those thoughts, and as they call it, the monkey brain, is to do some meditation, and with that, breathing exercises. So this was kind of a natural progression for me, being a respiratory therapist. When I started taking yoga and then started teaching it, I had one of those aha moments, like, oh my gosh, we teach this, and this is what we do, and well, hopefully everybody's breathing, so that's pretty much common for most of us, right? It's more conducive to living if you're breathing, and there's no right or wrong way. However, most of us breathe around 12 to 20 times a minute. How many times a day do you think about your breathing? Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things that is automatic, right? But we can control it as well. So it's both an automatic as well as a controlled thing that we do. And oftentimes, when we're going throughout our day, we get very anxious, we get stressed, so our breathing tends to be shallower and more rapid, which increases our stress, right? So it creates that vicious cycle. And one of the most effective ways to alleviate that is to just take even just 2 minutes out of your day and do some simple breathing exercises. Now in yoga, obviously, there's a whole limb of yoga that teaches different breathing exercises, but what I'm going to talk about today is very simple. It's stuff we do all the time. It's taking slow, deep breaths. So rather than breathing 12 to 22 times a minute, we slow down the breath to maybe 6 to 10 times a minute. So when things get anxious or we get upset, what often do we say? Stop and take a deep breath. Well, there's a real physiological reason why that is beneficial. So when we slow the breath down and take deeper breaths, it actually increases the pressure in your chest, which kind of gives a little squeeze to the heart. But over time, what that does is it triggers the sympathetic nervous system. So you've got parasympathetic. So you have, the one is the fight or flight, and then you have the relaxation. When you slow down the breath and take deeper breaths, it actually increases the relaxation. So it decreases the heart rate and decreases blood pressure. And there's actually been studies done over the last several years where they've done these practices with patients. And just by starting at 2 minutes a day, working up to maybe 20 minutes a day, if you slow the breath down, and just like I said, take slow deep breaths in, and then that long extended breath out, it actually can decrease your blood pressure over time. In these studies that they did this, it was enough that they were actually able to decrease the amount of blood pressure medicine. So it can have a very significant effect on your health. But it does take practice. So one of the things, as I always teach people, especially as we get older, is, exercise is great, practice your balance, and breathe, and do the deep breathing exercises. So I just have a 5-minute meditation that I'll read to you, but what we want to do is prepare for ourselves for that. So as I said, you don't have to sit in the corner with your legs crossed. Sitting up in a chair is perfectly fine. Even lying in bed at night, or when you first wake up in the morning, perfect time to do this, and to just take a moment before you start your day, or when you end your day, to find a moment to relax. And even if it's just for 5 minutes, it'll have great benefit on your health. So in order to do that, let's just sit up in our chairs, relax with your back against the back of the chair, feet comfortably on the floor. Let's take our shoulders, lift them up and roll them back. Just do that a couple of times. And then let's roll them forward. Right. We can even take our arms, maybe stretch it across. Just give us a nice stretch through the shoulders, because oftentimes we hold stress in between the shoulder blades, as well as through the neck. and the low back. So let's release that arm, bring the other arm around, across the front of the body. Feel that nice stretch. We can do a whole lot more. I could do a whole seated yoga class, but we don't have time for that. So let's then get comfortable, right? You can roll those shoulders again, and I'll just read a 5-minute meditation that I have. And this is just for relaxation. It's also great, so like at night when I have those 2 o'clock wake up, panic attacks, like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do this or that. Breathing exercises are great. I put one hand on my belly, one hand on my chest, which you're welcome to do as well. Close the eyes, and I'll just read this short meditation for us. So it's time to relax, and for the next 5 minutes, I will help you do just that. Close your eyes and take 3 slow, deep breaths. You can breathe in and out through the nose, or in through the nose and out through the lips, whatever's most comfortable. Just slowing the breath down. The body, mind, and soul love to be in a state of relaxed bliss. Give them a treat and allow yourself to sink out of those stringent consciousness. So for this moment, let's release our problems, release our stresses and worries. And just consciously think about putting them outside the door. They'll still be there when we get out here. Everything will be okay. And that's the only thing you need to focus on at this moment. You are in communion with the cosmos, and you are safe. Notice all the sounds, the smells, the sensations around you. Embrace the good stuff and let go of anything that doesn't serve you. Let the good things, the good thoughts, the good vibes, the good vibrations hug you and hold you. And take a moment throughout each day just to do that, to appreciate the sounds, the smells, the people, whatever is embracing you at the moment. So take in every last drop of calm and exhale worry. Breathe in peacefulness, grace, and acceptance, and release worry, fear, and negativity. Continuing to take slow, deep breaths. Noticing the rise and fall of the chest. Allowing the stress and any negativity to roll off your shoulders, releasing through the fingertips. And be patient with ourselves. If those little thoughts jump in, acknowledge them and just let them go. You needn't hold on to everything because everything changes eventually. So what's stressful now will later become manageable. The universe does not give you more than you can handle. Continue with your slow, deep breaths. The natural state of being is relaxed and calm. Honor your legacy by letting go of the day-to-day issues. Let your soul breathe and touch the sun for those few moments. Sink into your space and allow it to hold you and embrace you. Everything is calm. Everything will be all right in the end. You are safe. Continuing your slow, deep breaths in and out through the nose or through the mouth. Continue to focus on the positive, releasing the negative. And remind yourself to stop throughout each day and just take a moment for these slow, deep breaths to allow us to focus, reset, and recharge. When you're ready, open your eyes. Maybe take one more deep breath. How do you feel? There, my work is done. But how often do we take time to do those things? How often do we take a moment to just find relaxation? We get caught up in our everyday lives. And I know, I feel like the older I get, the busier I become. And so it's really important to take those times, those moments throughout our day. Our body needs rest just as much as it needs movement and exercise and nourishment. So it's important that we focus on those things that benefit us, because we can't take care of anybody else if we're not taking care of ourselves. So So it's just a reminder that we do that each day. I'm going to hand it over to Amanda, who will now nourish with rain as well. Thank you.
Who feels relaxed? Ready for a nap? I definitely am. Thank you, Patty. That was fantastic. While we get the PowerPoint set up, when Sherry told me about this presentation, she said, we're going to focus on brain health. And I thought to myself, I've been doing this job for over 10 years. I consider myself an expert in nutrition. I don't really know that much about nutrition and brain health, is what I kind of realized. So I learned a whole lot about emerging research when it comes to the brain, and we'll definitely get to that. But I really want to acknowledge something that inspired me with these women when they were talking, is that all of these things are connected, right? So Gretchen was talking about loneliness and making sure that we're having social interaction. Well, especially now that it's the holiday season, what's more social than the holidays, right? Spending time with loved ones, family, and friends throughout this holiday season, and of course year-round. The way that I like to tie that to nutrition is, I know sometimes I hear from people, well, I live alone and I don't really know why I would cook for myself. I don't really feel like I want to, right? And that's totally understandable. But what if you got together with some friends on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, or family, and you guys all cooked together? That would give a little bit more inspiration to do something social, get together, and celebrate through food, right? That's what all cultures do, is we celebrate events with food. And I thought that that was like a really great point that Gretchen just brought up. And then where Patty's talking about meditation, taking a walk, right? And that kind of sparked a little light bulb in me, is that, nutrition is not just about what we eat, but it's also about exercise as well. So making sure that we're getting in some good exercise throughout the day as a way to relieve stress, right? And it's always good for our bodies. So it's not like I'm telling you to lift a bunch of weights or go run a marathon or anything like that. But exercise could be things including housework. I know I'm sweating when I'm vacuuming. Just doing things around the house, gardening could be great exercise. And it's another way to get together with loved ones and maybe take a walk, do other kinds of exercise, swimming, whatever really kind of makes you happy. But it's a nice way to reduce stress, be social, and have a really nice sense of health and wellness. Okay? So let's get in a little bit about brain health. So I'm kind of focusing on dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and again, this is just really emerging research, that Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia. It affects more than 55 million people worldwide and over 6 million people in the US alone. It is the 7th leading cause of death in the US. And what it is a loss of cognitive function. So thinking, remembering, ability to reason, and all of that. We'll get positive at the end, I promise. So, of course, aging is the #1 risk factor. The reason is because our bodies go through so much stress throughout our lives. And stress could be something like we're stressed about our jobs, we're stressed about our families, but it could also just be outside environmental factors. Pollution, as simple as that. Less than healthy foods can cause actual physical stress to the body and break down some of the cells of the body, which can increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease. And high cholesterol is another one. It's just correlated. But what I really wanted to talk about was the gastrointestinal things that are going on in the stomach. So the stomach creates a chemical, it's called the intrinsic factor, okay? So anyone that has any major GI diseases, like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, have a lower intrinsic factor, okay? Same with gastritis. If you are chronically on proton pump inhibitors, like Protonix and other medications that suppress acid, like gastric reflux disease, those medications that decrease the acid will also decrease intrinsic factor in the stomach. Also, bariatric surgery. So if you've ever had a bariatric surgery where the stomach, part of the stomach is missing, that intrinsic factor is also missing. So why am I bringing up so much of the intrinsic factor? Why is that so important? and it has to do with vitamin B12. So vitamin B12 is only absorbed in the stomach with that intrinsic factor present. So again, while I'm doing research for this, I realized there's such a mind and gut connection. So a healthy gut can actually lead to a healthier brain. Okay? So B12 deficiency is very common. As we get older, our bodies produce less of it. So it's just really important that when you go to the doctor and get your checkup, that you're checking your vitamin B12 levels and making sure you're supplementing if you need to. Okay? Another huge risk factor for B12 deficiency is anyone who is vegetarian or vegan. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with being vegetarian or vegan. It can actually be an incredibly healthy lifestyle, right? It just takes a lot of effort to make sure you're getting all of the vitamins and minerals in your diet, okay? And the reason is because B12 is found in a lot of animal products. That's just the nature of the beast. So if you're not eating a lot of animal products, if you're vegan or a strict vegetarian, you're not really getting that B12 through your diet, so you need to supplement it. But a lot of food companies are also starting to fortify it. So adding B12 into foods that already exist that are not found naturally. So things like certain cheddar cheeses, veggie burgers, cereals, and then things like tempeh and kimchi and miso. Those things have fortified B12. So again, it's really important to check those B12 levels and make sure that you don't have a deficiency. Okay, so on a positive note, what can we do about all this? So really, just an overall healthy diet that's rich in antioxidants. So I talked a lot about that cellular stress. That's the breakdown of cells. We can combat that stress by eating antioxidants. Antioxidants are a chemical that's found in fruits and vegetables. So having a lot of fruits and vegetables throughout the day is rich in antioxidants that can fight off some of that cellular damage that can cause cognitive breakdown, Alzheimer's, and dementia. Okay, we talked a little bit about vitamin B12, so any supplementation with that. And then there's other vitamins and minerals up there, of course, A, D, E, and K, and then vitamin B6 and folate. So ask your doctor if just a general multivitamin might be right for you. So diet-wise, so what do I eat? So there's two different diets. One is called the DASH diet, and one is called the Mediterranean diet. They're very similar, and what it focuses on is a lot of whole grains, so things like brown rice, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, and fruits and vegetables, okay? The only thing that is a difference between the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet is the Mediterranean diet limits the consumption of red meat. You do not have to eliminate that from your diet, but just limiting and choosing leaner options of red meats and focusing on healthy fats. Have you guys ever heard of omega-3s? Right? Omega-3s are great for the heart, but they're also great for the brain. So things like salmon or fatty fish, but the first thing I hear when I see that is a lot of noses turned up, like, I don't like fish. That's totally fine. You could do things like avocados, walnuts, flaxseed. There's a lot of other non-fish related options. You can also take a fish oil supplement as well if you don't really like the taste of fish. Okay? So just focusing on a diet of a lot of fruits and vegetables and a lot of whole grains will really set you up for a healthy body and a healthy mind and a long life. All right, that's kind of it for me. Any questions? Okay, should we just jump to the panel? Okay, yes sir.
Amanda, is popcorn great for the brain?
Okay, so the question was, is popcorn great? Did you say for the brain?
Yes.
Okay, great question. I guess anything, yeah, you can consider it. I mean, popcorn is a great source of fiber. Okay, as long as you don't have any GI issues that restrict things like popcorn, I think popcorn is a great way to get good fiber into the body. I mean, I can't think it's completely connected in terms of these vitamins and minerals, but I think it's a great part of a healthy diet. I'm also one of those dietitians that I think that all foods fit in the diet, so I think that's a great option. Okay, yes, ma'am.
I was wondering about the facts of
Hang on.
fat
So it's not just fat that we're concerned about with the vegetarian diet, right? But any kinds of fats, what you want to focus on is healthy fat. And healthy fat is what's called unsaturated fat. So when you're looking at your food label, there's saturated fat and unsaturated fat. The way that I like to describe it to people is saturated fat is a solid at room temperature. So if we're thinking of things like butter, lard, coconut oil, those things are solid at room temperature. They're not as healthy for us. Our body doesn't process them as efficiently as unsaturated fats, which I like to say are liquid at room temperature. So things like all of your oils, olive, canola, soybean, avocado, there's the, sky's the limit when it comes to oils. So focusing on those healthier unsaturated fats like those oils, and then things like a nice fatty fish that is rich in omega-3s, that is really great for not only brain health, but heart health, and a lot of different disease processes. It's really good for.
I use avocado oil only and olive oil. I would never use canola oil.
Awesome. And yeah, there's not enough research. There's plenty of oils, and I like to tell people you can have a wide variety. Don't stick to only one. You can have a multitude of them, and it can fit within it.
I understand that sardines obviously are a good source of omega-3s,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then I was told sometimes you go to different places to buy them, and the best place is Costco of all places.
Great point. The best place is always Costco. Let's just
Okay, the other question I have one more.
Just meaning that the lady in the back didn't actually hear, and she said, well, what is this about brain? Because she didn't understand that first person saying, we need interaction, we need that. She didn't understand that that had anything to do with the brain. So you need to kind of verify what you're saying this is a link to the brain, whatever. Because I think she laughed, because she first of all, she didn't hear. Anyway, I know a little bit more because I watch PBS, but you need to correlate that to the audience if they don't know the subject. So,
Thank you.
Okay? This is my suggestion.
No problem. Any other, if you have a question, just put your hand up so I can come over. Anybody else? Someone over here? Okay.
I don't think I need it. I'm loud enough. I always believed in the National Mediterranean diet for a long time, but I got an opinion from a renowned orthopedic surgeon the other day that he claims that both of these diets are very heavy on wheat, and he claims that wheat is a big contributor to inflammation. And as a matter of fact, he said wheat and sugar. Well, we all know that sugar is not the greatest thing, but I never knew that wheat had a problem, and he swore to the fact that hey, wheat is not good for it's causing inflammation. Period.
Great point. I appreciate that feedback. What I like to kind of just say is that there is no one-size-fits-all diet. Everybody has different focuses to their diet. Some people need to focus a little bit more on fat. Some people need to focus a little bit more on carbohydrates. Some people need to focus a little bit more on inflammation. There is conflicting research, but there is some research that says that wheat can cause inflammation, but not necessarily so. I think the reason I bring this diet up as the Mediterranean diet is that it is better to focus on whole grains instead of refined and processed products. So that's why I'm talking about things like whole wheat bread has more vitamins, minerals, and fiber than its counterpart of white bread, which is bleached and processed and doesn't carry a whole lot of nutrition. But if you're really focused on inflammation and your doctor tells you, that you want to kind of cut back on some of those things, there's lab tests that can kind of help prove that. So it is a great point, but I wouldn't say that overall it contributes to inflammation for everyone, but it might contribute inflammation to some people who are a little bit more prone. Does that kind of make sense? Like I wouldn't just tell everybody to stop eating grains in general. It depends on the individual.
Any other questions? If you just raise your hand, I'll be right up there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My question is for the meditation expert. What do you consider the best meditation method for old people like us, since we have very short memory and etc.?
So, and just like Amanda is with food, there's not any one thing fits all, one meditation fits all. So it's really finding what works for you. And it's finding, those periods during your day that you can fit this in, even if it's just a minute. I know that there are some people who are really into meditation who do take the time. They have their whole meditation throne, if you will. They've got a chair, they've got music playing, they've got a candle going. It's really whatever you are comfortable with. I think most people, there's too much going on in our lives to be able to take out, a half an hour of time and to do that. But if you do, that's wonderful. So it's really, like I said, even if it's just, a walking meditation, and I can just tell you from my experience, you're not that old, first of all. Because if you are, that makes me right there with you. But, I take walks all the time, and one of the things, that as Gretchen was talking about, laughter and connection and all those things are important for our mental happiness, if you will, but so is that positive self-talk. As humans, it's human nature to have those negative thoughts. Oh, I dropped something, man, I broke this, and I'm such a bonehead, or whatever. That kind of talk is not healthy for us. And while, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging our mistakes or something that we've done that we wish we hadn't done, it's also important to forgive ourselves and to find those times where, we have positive thoughts in our head and positive feedback for ourselves. And so one of the things I would do sometimes is I'll take a walk just through the park near my house, and I go through the alphabet, and I find positive words to say to myself. I am awesome, I am beautiful, I am courageous, I am determined. So I kind of work my way through the alphabet. It gets a little challenging around the X and Q, but it's fun to do because then the next time I do that, I find a new word to say. And one of the things in yoga, we have what are called mantras, and oftentimes they're done in what's called Sanskrit, which was the ancient language. Positive affirmations are the same as mantras. So in Sanskrit, mantras are actually positive affirmations, and so you don't need to translate. You can just say positive words to yourself, and that really has a lasting effect on us mentally. So it's really finding what works for you.
Okay, any more questions? Just raise your hand and I'll come over. Don't be shy. This is your chance.
I'm sorry I was late. Did you say in the beginning what causes Alzheimer's?
Maybe just go back over the Alzheimer's part and the nutrition portion.
There's really not like a single thing that causes Alzheimer's, but there's certain things that have been correlated to it. So the number one thing is aging, just because of the stress that on a cellular level, that the body kind of goes through as we get older. Also because the loss of that vitamin B12 as we get older. So that's why aging is the number one risk factor. But other things that I have found correlations with are elevated cholesterol levels, inflammatory gastrointestinal disorders, things like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, gastritis, and a history of bariatric surgery. So again, that's not to say that these are the only things, but the brain is something that we don't understand, right? Scientists still don't know that much about the brain. I think that they say we only know about 10% of the function of our brain. So that's why there's still a lot of unknowns, and the research is still ongoing to really try to kind of figure it out. So that's kind of some of the risk factors, but not all of them.
And our final question.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to ask about things that are good for the brain, activities. You see all these different things on the websites, you know, they're trying to sell you games for the brain. People play Wordle, I'm trying to think of the other, all those different games. And how valuable are those as also compared to, like, if you're involved in crafts and, I don't know, designing a quilt, and designing a new piece of furniture to build at the woodworker shop, just sort of an overview of what type of activities like that are we should be focusing on.
All right, I don't know if I have the exact answer to that question, but as a rule of thumb, I tell people use it or lose it. If you're not using your brain somehow, whether it's in a creative manner, which is a whole different way than, you know, reading a book, than playing a game of Scrabble, with, you know, or a board game, or learning a new piece of technology, which, you know, that I find that a stressor, actually, technology. But if you are doing designing a beautiful quilt, creating a beautiful crochet piece, designing a unique piece of furniture. I have a friend, he's 78, he retired a couple of years ago. He'd been a vendor, I worked with in Pahrump. And, you know, I just liked him. You know, I don't know what we talked about, but we just became friends. And after he retired, he started wood burning. So he sends me, you know, pictures of his wood burning pieces, you know, as he progresses. And he's like, this one's for sale, this one's a commissioned piece. I gave him a picture of one of my dogs who passed over the Rainbow Bridge and said, can you do this? I want it to be a gift for my husband. So you use your brain in so many different ways. It's just a matter of feeding your brain, you know, through meditation, through clearing it out, through nourishment, through spiritual, and just use it or lose it. So I think whatever keeps your brain working for you, that's what you keep on doing. And you also explore something else. I did a New Year's resolution a few years ago. It was harder than I thought it would be. It was to do or try one new thing a month. And I mean, there's a bazillion things to do in the world. It was a little hard. I took a knitting class, I took a Bible study with a group of people I'd never met before. I was gonna do scuba diving, but actually I was a little frightened of that one, so I did not follow through with the scuba diving. But you know, I actually thought that was a pretty good New Year's resolution. I go back and revisit that, is just, you know, try a new piece of, one year it was to try a different piece of technology every month. So I learned how to use Venmo. I just learned like different, you know, through work, you know, I had to learn a different thing almost every other month. You know, but there are different things that you can do, but just make sure, and it's okay if you're not interested in it, you can do it and try and be like, yeah, not doing that again. But I would do something like that. And then what I would also mention is on the meditation, because I'm a walker and I have dogs who like to sniff, so it's never like a peaceful meditative walk. You know, I'm always like waiting for somebody to finish sniffing or doing their business. I found swimming to be my best form of meditation. And it's because the laps put me in a rhythm, and I do my prayers when I swim, and actually that pretty much takes up my whole swim routine is just praying. Everybody gets a lap, depending on where they are in my family. My husband gets 4, my daughters get 2. You know, the military get a couple of laps, my coworkers get a couple of laps. You know, so there's just different ways, but just, you know, thank you for being here, learning something new. I learned something new from Amanda, I learned something new from Patty, and just keep using it, don't lose it. And I'm gonna turn it over to Patty.
I just wanted to add something when you were talking about the swimming and doing your prayers. Prayer is a form of meditation as well. You know, especially when you're, you know, like my grandmother, I used to go with her to church and we would, you know, pray the rosary. And it was a very meditative experience, so that's something to keep in mind. One of the other things that when Gretchen was talking earlier about reading, I'm an avid reader as well, and there are 2 books that actually I utilize in some of my yoga trainings. One is for trauma, and it's The Body, let me think, well, one is The Body Speaks the Mind. It's by Deb Shapiro, and it basically talks about how, you know, those things that are going on up here, as you mentioned, can manifest physically, and so that's something to really pay attention to as well. The other has to do with trauma, and it's written by Bessel van der Kolk, is his name? Not an easy name to say, but it's The Body Keeps the Score. And it's basically dealing with trauma, any traumatic events that we've been through in our lives,
and then we'll close it out.
Actually, it's not a question. I just found that what I did as a kid playing the piano, I've started doing that on a keyboard and started doing that, and it does two things. It's totally relaxing if I'm stressed, and I just go play that, and it also, gets my brain working because trying to sight read or read music again. So that's really worked for me, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Excellent. All right, I want to thank the panel one last time for coming out and providing this great information for us. And also, so we'll give them a round of applause. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Instruction Center, for coming and joining us. We've got some leftover snacks and healthy snacks and water there. If you guys want to clean it up, that would be great. Then I don't have to take it with me. So help yourselves. And thank you. The panel will be here for a few more minutes if you want to ask them